Thanks very much, James, and thanks everyone for having me. I'm gonna 7 minutes is a short time for me for those who know me. So those who are visiting today and watching this today, you have missed out on my poorly executed dad jokes. But you are at the mercy of looking at this background behind me, which is typically blurred. But on the Hopin platform, I'm not sure how to blur my background. Anyway, to crack on into it, as James alluded to, I've been blessed to work with a number of companies that have started their journey in Europe, in Dublin and Amsterdam, where I previously lived. And I've been lucky to be part of that journey from a very early stage. So the topic of team building is very, very important to me. And in my current role at Gong, I'm going from a motion of growing the team from, it's going to be increased by 500% in terms of headcount this year. And so thoughtful team building is very important to me. And I'm sure it's very important to a lot of SDR, BDR managers as well, about how can we make sure that we're bringing in the right folks to the team that are going to be set up for success and are also going to contribute in a very impactful way to our business. So I'm going to bring you through a three-pillared approach that I've kind of landed on right now, and that I continue to kind of update every kind of like 6 months to make sure that I'm being honest in my performance in that area. And I'm going to go through that with you today. So I'm going to attempt to share my screen, and if someone can confirm in the comments, that would be helpful. Maybe, do you know what? I'm actually going to leave it. I'm just going to go on the fly as any good AE. Okay. Perfect. So the three-pillared approach is made up of 3 pillars, as I mentioned. The first is candidate profile. The second is the non-negotiable characteristics of candidates. And then thirdly is the unified team. So the first, candidate profile. And again, this 3-pillared approach is the outcome of my own firsthand experience of wins and failures that I picked up along the way. It's the output of extensive kind of feedback that I've gotten from managers and colleagues around me, having those short feedback loops. And I've also taken a lot of influence from some of the more reputable material out there from sales leaders in the form of books and blogs and so on. So the first pillar, candidate profile. So I've broken the candidate profile into 2 persona types that I would typically look for in SDRs: persona 1 and persona 2. Persona 1 is typically that SDR candidate who is at the very early stages of their career. Perhaps they've just recently finished university, or this is going to be their first job out of school, for example, but they have shown traits to show that they are cognitively strong or have entrepreneurial interests and so on. And typically you can actually ascertain that from a LinkedIn profile or a CV. So it's folks who've done a good job at achieving strong grades in university, or it's folks who've actually tried things. They've put together charity events, or who have tried entrepreneurial projects and initiatives and so on. And ultimately with that persona type, we're trying to find those kind of A players for the business further down the line. So those future Hall of Famers for the business. And then persona 2 is an SDR candidate profile who is a bit further along in their career. Ideally, someone who actually has a bit more functional experience in the form of working in a BDR or SDR role elsewhere, but is looking for a new challenge or a new type of company to work with. Those folks will have a stronger sense of business acumen. They will be a bit more polished and having gone through some training or some onboarding. And those folks we can expect to, drive a better ROI and ramp quicker for the business versus those kind of persona 1 types. Typically, what I would look for is to have 3 persona 1s. Have 1 persona 2 for every 3 persona 1. So that would be the typical ratio. Second, we have non-negotiable characteristics. And a lot of this is influenced by one of my favorite books, which is The Qualified Sales Leader by John McMahon. There are 3 characteristics that I would really look for in an SDR candidate. The first is urgent curiosity, and not just, a candidate who's curious about being an SDR or curious about, the space that your technology or your product is operating in, but it's those folks who are bringing this urgency and this kind of thirst for knowledge and thirst for intellect into the interview process when you meet with them. So it's those folks who've researched a lot about you before coming into the interview. They've researched the breadth and depth of your product and the landscape where your product operates in. And it's those folks who just really have this kind of urgent curiosity that they are giving off in the interview process. Second is coachability. It's not only those folks who have the self-awareness to self-diagnose with the areas that they're doing well in and areas not so well in. But it's really important that these folks are able to take on board coaching, that they seek feedback, that they seek those short feedback loops around them and what they're doing, and applying those into their process to help them get better. And then the third characteristic that I would look for is a candidate who has this intrinsic motivation, this deep desire to work in a role that is measurable and that is accountable, that they are going to be held accountable, to a larger kind of team goal. And that's a perfect fit for SDR. So it's those folks who really want to be measured and in a role that they are in control of their fate and their output, and so to say. So those three again: urgent curiosity, coachability, and desire for measurability and accountability. And the last pillar is a unified team. So once we've set a strong foundation of SDRs and the team continues to grow, we want to make sure that we have a great subculture within that team, so that the existing folks and new folks can blossom and continue to go from strength to strength. So what are the three things that will make up a unified and just a high-performing team? I've taken a lot of influence from another one of my favorite books, which is The Culture Code by Daniel Coyle, in that a high-performing team needs to have an environment where folks feel that they are safe, that they're psychologically safe in their role, and that they're comfortable working in their role and with others around them. Secondly, that there is a sense of shared vulnerability, that folks are comfortable to be vulnerable in front of each other. And I think as a leader, it's really important for us to show that vulnerability as much as possible, to ensure that folks know that they can be vulnerable. And then the last piece is establishing purpose through a common goal, making sure that we all feel unified about this common direction that we're going to, and making sure that the path to get there is clear. So my timer didn't work on my phone, so I'm not sure how I'm doing for time, but just to sum up, I have a three-pillared approach, which is the candidate profile, the non-negotiable characteristics of candidates, and then thirdly is how to build a unified team. This is the plan that I have. I look into this plan every 6 months, and I will review that with my manager and make sure that this plan is in line with the growth plans of the business, and making sure that we're successful in bringing in the type of folks who are set up for success, that they're being successful and the function is being successful. And I think this plan is paramount to building a successful team. So hopefully that was helpful. And if you have any questions, please save them for the Q&A. Thanks very much.